Being stuck at a desk is no excuse for not getting a workout in. My name is Angela, and in today's information snippet, I'll be running through a few exercises and some stretches that you can do even if you're stuck in front of your desk all day. We've all had days when we're so busy that we can't really get away from our desk. We know we're not going to make it to a fitness class. We're starting to feel tense through our body. We're starting to seize up. We're going to be exhausted by the end of the day, which means we're just going to go and sit down in another chair. And then we know that we have to wake up the next day and do it all again. Well, some days are like that, but there is a way that you can actually squeeze a workout into your day with only just a few very easy props. Essentially what you need is a sturdy chair, a sturdy desk, and either a couple of water bottles or a couple of dumbbells. At some point during a workday, you will have to have a break from your desk, whether it's to go to the bathroom, whether it's to grab a quick bite to eat, whether it's because you are talking to someone on the phone, in which case you don't have to be seated down to do it, you can be standing up. And these are all opportunities to essentially step away from your desk. If you can actually schedule some time away and go for a walk, even if it's like a 5-minute walk around your house or around your office and back again, that in itself is something that's going to help you just get those steps up for the day. And it's what we call incidental exercise. But it would be really nice if we could also get some strength training in. So I've got this series of exercises. You can actually find the link to below in this description and download. And what you can do is actually squeeze these into your day and just tick them off as you do them. And that way you know that by the end of the day you have done more or less a full body workout. You've also done some good stretches and you'll feel so much better in your skin than having done nothing. Let's get started with some push-ups against a desk. So for this one, it is recommended you have a slightly sturdier desk than what I do. Keep that cord gently switched on the whole time so that there's no change in the curvature of your spine as you're going down. So you're not overarching your back at any point. So your body is essentially in a straight line from your heels up to the tip of your head. Arms nice and wide. Making sure that you're not going down on your wrists at a funny angle. So you really want your fingers pointing forward if you can. Next exercise, our squat, which is the most fundamental of all exercises, and it's a really easy one to do. You just gently get up and tap down with your bottom on the chair and then get back up again. The nice thing about having a chair behind you is that it forces you to maintain good technique, so your bottom goes back rather than going forward, putting the weight on your knees. And just keep an eye on those knees, make sure they're not wobbling in towards each other. With all the exercises, I would recommend doing them for either a set period of time, like say 40 seconds, and as that gets easier, building it up to 45 seconds, 50 or 60 seconds, or you can just count repetitions. And because we don't really have any heavy weights with any of these exercises, you can actually do up to about 15 reps or even up to 20 of an exercise if you've got, the time and the attention span to do that. So these heel raises work on your calves. And this one here now, which I'm showing you, is the lunge, where we're really working through the whole lower body. But in particular, you'll find that you get a really good stretch through the back leg and into the hip flexor. If you're stuck at a desk for long periods of time, your hip flexors will be really quite tight. And they're the muscles that go from the front of the legs up through the pelvis and attached to the spine. So they can contribute to lower back pain if you are stuck at a desk for long periods of time. So I do recommend that you incorporate them into your routine, but do make sure that you're not rushing into them and start gently, perhaps not going so low. And then as you feel that you're warming up, you're getting into it, you can go longer or even add variations such as knee lifts where you're making it just a little bit more challenging. You can also do these holding weights, adding a jump when you come to that upright position. There's lots of variations where you can actually progress them. Now, this next exercise is what we call the back row, and I'm going to show you a few ways of doing this same exercise. This is another very important one to include in your routine because our upper back muscles tend to become quite long and weak because we're hunching over so much. So this is a really nice way of actually strengthening those muscles. So we're tightening them, we're helping to reverse some of the bad posture that comes with being stuck at a desk for so long. As you can see, you can also do this one either seated or standing. In the standing position, you're doing one side of your back at a time. So you can afford to go significantly heavier with weights when it comes to working this back area, but just be very conscious about the fact that as you're leaning you're over, you're putting more strain on your lower back. So you've got to make sure those core muscles are switched on, and don't attempt it with too much lean in your back if you do suffer from lower back pain. This is another variation on that, which is what we call a fly. You guessed it. It's a bit like a flying movement where we're opening our wings. Keep those elbows just gently bent so you're not really, hyperextending any of those joints. Make sure you've got a nice long neck and you're not feeling it in your neck when you do this type of exercise. As always, keep those core muscles really switched on. And if you are prone to lower back pain, just be very careful with these types of exercises or avoid them until you are in a position where you can, handle a bit more strain in the lower back doing these types of exercises where you're leaning over. Always keep that core switched on. The next exercise is tricep pullbacks, and we're working the underneath section of our top arm. Keep those elbows really close to your head, and from there we're extending arms up towards the ceiling and then bending the elbows to take them back. If you're struggling to get your arms overhead without hopping your ribs and overarching your back, this is not an exercise for you because it'll just put excessive strain on your back. But when you are doing this, you're really trying to make sure that as you're bending those arms back, elbows are pointing forward and you're keeping nice and upright. Our next exercise series is working shoulders, shoulder raises, and then a variation that you will see on this in a moment. For this exercise, you're not raising those shoulders towards your ears, so you always want to try and keep a nice long neck as you're doing it. Torso is really nice and upright, so keeping those core muscles switched on. And as you can see, there's a few variations that you can do on shoulder exercises, just straight up and down, or add a bit of variation by going forward and back, up and down. Moving on from here, we're going to be working a bit more on our core. So with our obliques, which is essentially our side muscles, this is a side bend, probably not a good one to do if you're suffering from osteoporosis, anything to do with bending or rotating the torso. And you can do this one with some weights to make it a little bit more challenging. You can also do it so that you've got a heavier weight on one side and just doing one side at a time. So as you can see that I'm holding two dumbbells at the same time, and you could go probably even heavier depending on what your strength is. Really keep that core switched on. Make sure that body is nice and upright as you're doing it. And this is the other midsection move, which is rotation. So rotating from one side to the other, keeping core gently switched on, trying to isolate the waist as much as you can. And you can do variations on this as well. Keep those dumbbells close to your chest if you're using dumbbells so that you're not straining your back too much. Be nice and controlled with it. And make sure that you're turning from the waist, not from the neck, so that the whole upper body turns. And this is probably a next option on this exercise to make it a bit more challenging, where we're rotating through the waist, but we're actually lifting the whole lower body up and down again. If you're doing this one, make sure you're keeping those knees close to each other the whole time. Make sure that you've always got those core muscles switched on so you're not straining lower back again. And I think it's about time we did a bit more stretchy type stuff. So getting a little bit more movement through the neck. So again, making sure shoulders are down, away from the neck, squeezing those back muscles to hold you nice and upright, and just turning your head from one side to the other. And then the other move, similar to this one, is bending the head from one side to the other. So you're feeling a bit of a stretch either, on either side of your neck. You can also hold these stretches for a little bit longer each time to actually really ease into it. And if you are prone to holding tension in your neck, incorporating these types of mobility moves and stretches is quite important. This is a variation on the lunge exercise we did, but we've turned it into a stretch now. So bringing that knee down to the floor. You may need a little bit of padding under the floor if you're on a wooden floor like this. And adding a side bend, or in this situation, we're really trying to get into some hip flexor stretches, which, as I mentioned earlier, hip flexors can get really tight if you're stuck at a desk, and using the opportunity to give them stretches, gentle stretches like this, where you're continually moving forward and back, are really good because you're just incorporating a lot more movement into that area of the body. And some stretches now right through the midsection too. So turning around the whole upper body. This is where a chair is really quite handy, and just turning your head as well. Just seeing how far you can look around with those eyes. If due to staring at a computer screen or a phone, you tend to lean your head forward, you'll find that you're starting to get tight in certain muscle groups in the neck and other ones are weak. So types of exercises where you're pulling your chin back either with your hand on your chin or putting your hands behind your head and just pulling your head back into your hands are really good for trying to address this, and even just holding these as stretches. And that concludes our exercises and stretches for today.
As you can see, it's very doable to be able to squeeze a full body workout into your work day. It isn't really a substitute for actually doing strength training because, especially if you're doing it in a class setting, you've got someone who can actually ensure that your technique is correct, you're using the right posture for those moves, and that you're comfortable and you know how to engage through your course to make sure that you don't injure yourself. You should also be very aware that if you're actually very, distracted with work, and you don't have that mindfulness when you're doing some of these moves, you can injure yourself. So do bear that in mind and really take the opportunity when you do this type of exercise to make sure that you're really switching off from work for even those few minutes when you're doing a set of a particular exercise. Do let me know how you go. If you haven't done so, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel below, somewhere down there, and I'll see you next time. See ya.